to the table and working on the different ROSC initiatives. So you are in the right place. Thank
There you go.
for joining.
Thank you for having me.
And Dorothy Davis.
Hello, my name's Dorothy Davis. I'm the Regional Coordinator for Parents Care and Share Program in Central and Northern Region for Children's Home and Aid. And I'm glad to be here, Angie.
Thank you, Dorothy. We love having you as well. Okay, and how about Alex Tish?
Hi, I'm Alex Tish. I am the community outreach worker over at Carl Health Addiction Recovery, and I am part of the outreach group that is trying to start up a ROSC over in Vermilion County area. So I'm just here to kind of learn a little bit more about ROSC. So I appreciate you having me, Angie.
Yes, and thank you, Alex. Again, I remember the email exchanges, and I would like to set up a time. I know I've been crazy rescheduling, but we will connect after this. So thank you for joining.
Sounds good. Thanks.
And Dave K.
Well, hi, Dave King. I'm also with Carl Addiction Recovery Services. I'm the community outreach manager. So Alex and I are partnering on this project. So what she said is what I'll be doing too. So there you go. Thank
Excellent. You. Again, 3 for 3 in the right place. Excellent. Terry M.
Hello, I am the new Associate Director of Community Health at Chestnut. So Tony is one of my team members, and so she invited us to come and be a part of this because she said it's wonderful and we would learn a lot.
Excellent. Thank you, Terry. And thank you, Tony. And Leanne Corson.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Leanne. I am the new System of Care Coordinator for the ROSC of Knox, Warren, Henry, and Henderson County. I'm with Bridgeway. I'm super grateful to be here.
Excellent. Thank you, Leanne. And what about Emma Guevara? I got it.
Hi, I am Emma Guevara. I am an employment specialist at Bridgeway.
Thank you, Emma. And Natasha?
She said she's driving and won't be able to introduce herself.
Great, thank you. Natasha, I'll go ahead and Natasha's a very well respected clinical mental health, so I don't want to jack up your name, your title. So she works at the Center for Human Services. Thank you, Natasha, for joining us. And Abby Lee.
Her mic isn't working.
Yeah, mic's coming. Yeah, she's gonna say her mic isn't working.
Thank you, Abby. And she has introduced herself in the chat. You saw how my last rendition went. And Laura Schumacher.
Hi, I am Laura Schumacher. I'm also with Chestnut Health Systems in Granite City, and I am the new ROSC for the Merck councils. So I am along with Terry, Tony, and Rachel to learn more about ROSC.
Great. Thank you, Laura. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Aisha Reeves.
Hi, my name is Aisha Reeves. I am interning at Children's Home and Aid, and I'm also a home visitor at Children's Home and Aid in Bloomington. I'm here observing. Miss Dorothy Davis invited me, so I'm just here observing and learning. Thank you.
Thank you, Aisha, for joining us. And Taylor Davis.
Hi, I'm Taylor Davis. I am a behavioral health specialist at McLean County Health Department.
And thank you, Taylor. And Mary Ann.
Hello, I'm Mary Ann Drainer. I work for Chestnut Health Systems, and Terry's my supervisor. Hi, Tony. Hi, everybody else from Chestnut.
I know there's a lot of Chestnut today, huh?
I know, yeah.
And Rachel H.
Hi, I'm also with I'm also with Chestnut, but through the ROSC with Clinton County. And so I am excited to be here as well. I've heard a lot of good things.
Great, thank you, Rachel. And Clea?
Hello, my name is Killia. I'm the intern for Miss Dorothy Davis with Children's Home Aid and the Parent Sharing Care Program. And I'm just excited to be here on this afternoon.
Excellent. Thank you, Kalia, for joining us. And unless Andrea Kinseth. Did I try Andrea?
You already got me earlier, but you're good. I just turned my video off, so threw you off probably.
Thank you. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for your time this afternoon.
Can I go?
And before, go ahead, Dan.
I'm ready now. My name is Dan Sokulski. I know most of you. I'm a recovery support specialist at Chestnut, and I work with the ROSC and Chestnut's Ignite program, which is a court services type thing. Just happy to be here. That's me.
And then we'll go ahead and turn it right over to Tom Troe for the sake of time, and then we'll leave after Tom's presentation, which will be about 30 minutes long. We'll leave some time open for questions and possible some ROSC updates as well.
Good afternoon. So Dan or Andrew, you're going to be able to share that?
Yes, I'll pull it up. Did you want the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay.
Greetings, everyone. My Dan's pulling that up. I'll go ahead and do a little brief introduction. I'm going to be covering, my name is Tom Troe. I'm the Regional Recovery Support Specialist for DHS Division of Mental Health. And I'm going to be packing a whole lot of information. Can you go to slideshow on that, Dan?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing here.
Okay. I'm going to be packing in a whole bunch of information in a relatively tight period of time. So you're probably going to have some questions. You'll be send a handout of the slides after the meeting today. And I'm probably going to generate more questions than I'm going to have answers here. So don't hesitate. I'm going to try to run straight through this. And then at the end, hopefully we have some time left for question and answer. As I mentioned, my name is Tom Troe. I do have my CRSS, which is Certified Recovery Support Specialist. I also have my CPRS, which is Certified Peer Recovery Support Specialist. I'm an Advanced RAP Facilitator, also a Facilitator WHAM, which is Whole Health Action Management, and New R, which is Nutrition, Exercise, and Work for Recovery. I'm a facilitator of that. So I actually office in Pekin, Illinois. However, I have been officing in my home in Peoria Heights for about the last 16 months. So I want to go to the next slide for me, Dan. Okay, let's talk about my journey. So you're going to have to tolerate me here for about 5 to 7 minutes while I kind of share a little bit of my own story. As you can see from this roadmap, life can take a lot of twists and turns, and sometimes it may not be a straight line. I happen to believe that everyone can recover from a mental illness and or substance use disorder. I also believe that recovery should be driven by the individual and that they should be empowered to make the choices that work for them. When it comes to my substance use disorder, it started when I was about 12. We would steal booze from friends' parents. I went through phases. My first booze phase, then acid phase. These went on to pot, hash oil, cocaine, and back into booze phases. My problem was not with getting clean and sober, it was with staying sober. I would get in a jam, get clean through a treatment center or AA, rebuild my life, and then crush it. Legal issues, relationships, employment would get cleaned up and back into the cycle. I even had 1.5 years at one point. I was almost predictable in my crash and burns, find recovery, rebuild my life, go back out, and back to crash and burn. Somehow, I always managed to have great jobs. I didn't come to a mental health center to get better. I entered the doors to get my pain to go away. My son and I were shot on the front porch of our Peoria Heights home in September 2002. During the first year, I endured seeing 53 different doctors, had 7 surgeries, spent 32 days in the hospital, went to over 400 counseling, medical, and therapy appointments, had 2 suicide attempts, spent a year on a walker, only able to wear sweatpants and t-shirts. I lost my home, business, spent a month in a nursing home, and moved into a group home for a year. This occurred because of one of my other son's drug deals gone wrong, and what he didn't know, there were gang members, and the other son and I got in the way. I hope that someone's still out there doing stuff that you think of how drug use can have unpredictable consequences and can devastate others' lives. I've sat in doctors' offices and hospital emergency rooms and seen people's expressions change when they find out I have mental disorders. It used to really hurt when this happened. Today, I find it to be more of a character study. Along my journey, I learned that I had disorders that came with names like post-traumatic stress and major depression. At about 7 months of my recovery, my doctor said, "We need to talk." Now, when a psychiatrist says we need to talk, it may not be a great deal. My doctor asked me if I thought it was normal for 47-year-old men to work 14 and 16 hours a day, 6 or 7 days a week, play basketball for 2 hours at a time with people 20 years younger than themselves, and perhaps the half bottle of booze I drank daily may have been a problem. Well, maybe. He told me that he thought I had bipolar disorder and probably had it since I was in my teens. He added that he felt that I used excessive work, exercise, and booze to self-medicate. For me, receiving diagnosis of bipolar disorder was the point that allowed me to turn my life around. I was devastated to learn all this at the age of 47. I always knew I was different than other people. I thought I was just a type A personality and a workaholic. Today, I know that learning that knowledge was the best thing that ever happened in my life. It was at about this time I was going to my case manager and bemoaning the fact that I was bored and how I would enjoy going out, having a few drinks, throw some money in a poker machine, and have some hee-haws with the bartender. After about 3 times of him hearing this, he said he was getting sick of hearing it and I should just go out and do it because I was going to anyway. So I did. I walked in, ordered a drink, threw 20 in a poker machine, which of course I immediately lost. I was listening to those that were there. I went back to the bar and kept listening. I looked at the drink and then looked at the people and thought these people were sicker than me. I looked at the drink, I looked at the people, and realized I no longer had anything in common with them. I never took the drink, walked away, and have yet to walk back in. Not only was the compulsion to drink lifted, so was the impulse. My life had miraculously changed. That was 18 years ago. I don't know the exact day it really changed. At first, I thought taking my medications would do the trick, but there was more to be done. I then thought my recovery specialist should just wave their magic wands and fix me, but there was no wand. It was pointed out that my recovery was up to me, and the staff at the center was there to help me help myself, and I had to do the legwork. And the staff would help me remain motivated and support me in my quest, but only as much as I needed. Over time, the message just seemed to start soaking in. Knowledge of my illness became my most important tool. I could see others getting better and could even see improvement in myself. Hope. What a powerful word. When I came to the center, I had very little of this. I could tell you about fear, anger, shame, guilt, and a simultaneous fear of living and dying. I'd become the wounded animal wanting to lash out at anything I saw as a threat. I talked to my recovery specialist, took my medications properly, and began to go to groups that included grief, anger management, 3 times, pain management, anxiety, depression in men, and dialectic behavioral therapy. Later, I did WRAP, which is Wellness Recovery Action Planning. I can't say, as I said, the day that my outlook changed, but it has. I'm now free to make choices in my life. I'm not sure how much of it was going to groups, learning to change my self-talk, and challenging my mistaken beliefs, but they all helped. Along my journey, I've had some relapses with my mental health, but I need never lose hope again. With the help of my recovery specialist, I developed my own treatment program by picking and choosing the tools and knowledge that I wanted from each of the groups, 12 steps, and our one-on-one meetings. Even more importantly, I came to the realization that I was not the only person with my illness and symptoms. I came to understand that at the center, there were people there who would accept me as who I am, and I need not be alone. Today, the keys to my recovery can best be found in some daily affirmations and self-talk. I'll just share a few of them with you because there's 27 and we don't have all day. So among them are, and maybe my most important, my best pain management is to get out of myself and help others. I am the only one that has a right to judge my emotions. I must always concentrate on how far I've come and less on how far I have to go. My happiness is not dependent upon others' approval. It is not a question of how the world treats me. It is a question of how I choose to perceive it. I hope you can see how my substance use and mental health are intertwined. I feel I'm a walking miracle. My substance addiction was rooted in my untreated mental health challenges. I do not believe I would be clean and sober today had I not tended to my mental health. And finally, I can never hope to repay the many people who helped me find the miracle I have been given. All I can do is to try to pass along the care, compassion, and the gifts I have received. Today, when I introduce myself as not a mentally ill person or a drunk, but instead a recovery support specialist, father, caregiver, grandfather, a child of God, taxpayer, and above everything else, at one point, I never thought possible, a decent human being. So now we're going to get into the meat of this. You heard me pontificate there for a couple minutes, and Dan, I'm going to let you run the slides because I'm having some tech issues. So next slide, please. I'm going to be going at a pretty rapid pace here.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Oh, there we go. Sorry about that.
Okay. So I function as a state employee. I get to do a lot of trainings, a lot of public speakings, write a lot of curriculum, offer support to others, work with people to getting their CRSS. But probably the most important thing I get to do is I get to be the ear for those that receive services and a voice to the state of Illinois when it comes to setting policy. Next slide, please. Okay. So one of the most exciting things to happen in a number of years is the development in the field of human services that has been the emergence of recovery support specialists. Following recovery support terms are defined. Recovery support is the process of giving and receiving non-clinical assistance to help facilitate the process of recovery. Recovery support is provided by individuals with lived experiences in recovery. Next slide, please. So peer-based recovery support services are defined as peer-based recovery support services which are delivered to organizations and through specialized roles of paid recovery support specialists. Recovery support specialists infuse the human rights system with hope. Next slide. Now, the definition of a recovery support specialist is a person with lived experience in mental health recovery who helps others with psychiatric conditions on the recovery journals in a formal manner and is paid for his or her services. Next slide. So what came first, the chicken or the egg? It's amazing how this seems to always kind of come back around full circle. And so one of the things that, you know, for many, it's much the same with mental health challenges and substance use. Substance use, mental health, and legal issues are all interwoven in the recovery process. Did the person become involved with the criminal justice system because their mental health challenges led to substance abuse, and it led to illegal behaviors? Or did the person's substance use lead to issues with their mental health challenges that led to interaction with the police and maybe the courts? Most believe it really doesn't make a difference how we get there. The question is, what do we want to do with it? Numerous discussions have taken place over the years regarding mental health and substance use disorders. These conversations usually ended with a focus on the differences and why it won't work. Some months ago, a small work group began meeting to focus on common strengths and how we can work together in recovery support. This may not seem like a huge step, but it is leading to us coming together with a focus on similarities rather than differences. Next slide, please. All I got to do is get on the right page here. Okay, so I'm going to go through a couple definitions of recovery. This comes from SAMHSA, Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Administration, and their working definition of recovery is a process of change through which individuals improve their health and wellness, live a self-directed life, and strive to reach their full potential. Next slide. So you have to click this one again. So recovery defined is, this happens to come from Recovery Innovations. It happens to be my personal favorite because I have a very short memory. And this is the way it goes. It goes, recovery is remembering who you are and using your strengths to become all you were meant to be. Next slide. There are a number of current collaborations taking place, and I kind of had touched on the one that is the collaboration going on between Super and the Division of Mental Health. And so, you know, we've seen a large increase in participation in our CRSS training from those working at substance use or working towards their certified alcohol and drug counselor or CADC or their CPRS. Due to these changes in the audience, the Division of Mental Health and the Super, Substance Use and Prevention and Recovery, are working together to make trainings more well-rounded for all parties. And we're doing a presentation actually this year on that. There have been several RAP orientations also done with staff at substance use providers, also some MHE clinics. We have seen some people working in substance use become RAP facilitators and a large uptick in the interest to become certified facilitators. RAP can also be billed under Super's Rule 2060, as certified RAP facilitators are considered professionals with credentials specific to the subject matter. There are multiple pathways to recovery, and what does this mean? In substance use, there may be persons that struggle with working the 12 steps or SMART recovery, but do well with RAP, Wellness Recovery Action Plan, for substance use, or cognitive behavioral therapy as an example. In mental health, there may be individuals that struggle with using RAP or CBT and do remarkably well working the 12 steps through GROW or Emotions Anonymous. Attendance in many cases or groups process the needs of both populations. A few of those would be anger management, anxiety, grief, and there's just many, many more that can apply to that. Next slide, please. Thanks, Dan, by the way. Tom's suffering from some technical issues today.
Sorry, Tom. I'm clicking the button, but it's not going. Let's see here. Okay, I think I know what I got to do.
Okay, you have to click this one multiple times. By the way, who are our partners in mental health recovery? Number one, persons receiving services. Then we have, got to keep clicking, community mental health agencies, click again, primary care professionals, DHS sister agencies such as Super, Division of Rehabilitation, advocacy organizations, employers, the communities in which we live, and the Division of Mental Health Recovery Support Specialists, who one of our main goals is the training of individuals who are in recovery that want to work in the field. Next slide. So the value of the Community Mental Health Center is you can get a mental health assessment, evaluation, crisis services, teaching how instead of doing for, which is called the recovery model. The old system, a case manager may pick up a person who has a doctor's appointment, needs to go to shopping, take them to the doctor's appointment, bring them home, take them to the grocery store, help them shop, bring them home, and maybe help them put the groceries away. So that's the old system. The new system is we will teach people how to do for themselves. There's also housing support, groups, counseling, community support or recovery support services, psychiatry and medication, linkage case management to other supports. Next slide. So I am part of what's called Recovery Services Development Group. We do a ton of events and educational type of things. And so the rest of these slides are all going to be pretty quick hitting, but I'm going to talk on all of them. Hopefully you're all coming up with some questions. I don't know how many of you might be familiar with this particular page. This is actually the DHS office locator. You know, it's one thing when we want to work with an individual to help them with their recovery, but sometimes what happens is we're meeting with the person and they're homeless and have no food and a killer toothache. What are we going to say? I'm sorry you have no food or roof over your head, but let's talk about your mental health or substance use disorder. It's not going to happen. If we don't assist people with their basic needs, getting their basic needs met, they cannot function in the recovery journey. This is the pathway, the office locator is the pathway to link Medicaid and maybe financial assistance. Next slide. Okay, here's the website, and there will be a link, and we'll be, as I mentioned, we'll be sending you the handouts for what I'm talking about today afterwards. This happens to be the one little section at the DHS.state.illinois.us/page where you'll see basically everything that the Division of Mental Health has to offer. On there, there's a tab that's called Recovery Support Services. And under that, one of the tabs happens to be CRSS. Basically, everything that I'm talking about today is available through this site. And so you can navigate it, you can experiment, you can look at different things and see what you might be able to use. I mean, I work for the state. So when I produce something or create a training or something and I share it, it's no longer mine. It's yours to use as you would like. Next slide. Told you I'd be brisk, Dan. So one of those tabs happens to be a CRSS orientation. If somebody's working towards their CRSS or CPRS, and one of the first things that we recommend is that they view this orientation video, which is a bit of a video giving kind of an overview of what the credential is all about. So it's really very beneficial. It's not real long. I think it's under 10 minutes. So it's kind of to give you a snippet of what all we do. Next screen. And this is a recovery and empowerment handbook. I'm sure many of us can relate, where we've gone to the doctor, we go and we see the doctor, and we leave the doctor's office. On the way home, we go, oh, I forgot to ask him about the most important thing. Among many other things, it's how do you prepare to go see your doctors in here. This is the Recovery and Empowerment Handbook, which we began producing now, I think 9 years ago. And it's everything that I have on that I'm talking on here today is also available through this handbook. We also have some hard copies. This year there wasn't much of a demand because everything is virtual, but it'll have information on everything from employment to RAP to testimonials to how to connect for services to, you know, how to explore whether or not you qualify for Medicaid services and things such as that. So basically, once again, everything that I'm talking about can be found in this handbook, and it's about 64 pages, so it's just chock full of information. Next slide, please. Then we have the Illinois Mental Health Recovery and Empowerment Dictionary. This was created, I'm sure many of us have sat in those rooms and those acronyms start floating around. I'm with DMH who's talking to DHS, who's talking to SUPR about you know, Medicaid or what have you, right? And so also sometimes we can get kind of clunked down on the terminology that the professionals use. This was a collaborative effort between consumers of mental health services, professionals and medical professionals as a way for us to kind of give some basic definitions about services or definitions about diagnoses that are written in layman's terms, so basically we can all understand it. And it actually needs a little bit of updating. We're getting ready to do that before the good old pandemic set in. So it's something we hope to get back to real soon. Next slide. Sticking on you again, isn't it, Dan?
Yeah, it sure was.
We've got the Illinois model for mental health for certified recovery support specialists, or the CRSS. This is a sizable book, and it's not the greatest read in the world, but it defines what the CRSS is, the values and ethics, what all goes into it. It defines the core domains of the CRSS, and which, among those are mentoring, recovery support, so there's a whole plethora of information. Also, how do you apply, what the fee schedules are, all the information. This is located also on that same DHS site under the mental health tab. You can also get that through the Illinois Certification Board website. So it's actually available on both sites, plus many, many other places. It's kind of a heavy read, but it's worthwhile if you're interested in pursuing either your CRSS or the CPRS. Next slide. So there's a study guide. Now, we might have helped develop many of the questions for the CRSS exam. However, we don't have any clue what the questions will be. So one of the things to prepare people is a study guide that we give them for preparing to take the CRSS exam. The exam itself is 100 multiple choice questions, as is the CPRS, and we'll be talking about the differences and what people should be working for here in just a little bit. This doesn't give you the answers to the test. What it does is it educates you on the domains of the CRSS, how to apply them, how to use them in work. There's scenarios, there's explanations, there's kind of getting out there on your own and thinking about it. It won't give you the answers to the exam. Most of the answers to the exam are learned through our CRSS trainings, where you pick up things gradually. But even more importantly, is one of the requirements of the CRSS is 2,000 hours, and CPRS are 2,000 hours of work experience. The real knowledge comes from working within the domains and gaining your knowledge through experience, so that you answer the questions in a way that is recovery focused, from a recovery support perspective versus a clinical perspective. Next slide. So I'm just going to throw a lot at everybody, so be prepared. There's also a CRSS fact sheet. Among other things, is you need 100 hours of, this has kind of the facts, the nuts and bolts of what all you need. You need your 100 hours of CEUs or continuing education. College credits can count towards a number of those. As an example, for every college credit you have, let's say if you take Psych 101, would count towards 15 hours. Of the 6 hours have to be on ethics. Then you have 54 hours, which are general. Then you have the balance, which needs to be within the domains. You also need to have 100 hours of supervision. And as I mentioned, 2,000 hours of work experience, where 51% of your time is spent in the practice of offering recovery support. So it's pretty well-rounded. We want people to be as prepared as possible. Illinois was actually is considered to have some of the toughest standards in the country. And we happen to feel that that's a good thing, because that means the folks that obtain their CRSS are better prepared to actually do the work. So there's a fact sheet also located on that website. Then we have the Illinois Warm Line, which is funded through the Division of Mental Health. And this is just a huge assortment of knowledge or resources that you may need. It might be, where's there a RAP class? Where is the nearest mental health agency where I can go and get services? Gee, do you have for such and such a county, how do I find out where they have AANACA types of meetings? So there's just tons of stuff there. But even more than that, and I might mention that all the people who answer the phone either have or very close to having their CRSS. Sometimes one of the greatest uses of the Warm Line is sometimes people just need to be listened to. So, I mean, they do have limited time that they're willing to listen, but to have somebody listen to you and kind of talk about what's going on can really make a huge difference in a person's life. I do want to point out this is a Warm Line and not like a suicide hotline. It does have its purposes, and in particular, it's just this plethora of resources that people can access. Like, how do I find out where a food bank is in my area? Things such as that. So basically also helping people get their basic needs met. Next slide. Then there's employment support. So one of the things I do, I used to do a lot of opening of employment programs. And I'd go into an agency, or I'd even go into all my agencies. I have 24 of them that cover 22 counties. And I'd ask, so how many of you want to work? 70 to 80% of the hands would go up. But then I'd say, so how many of you have a job? Well, about 10% of the hands would go up. So there's a real disconnect between the number of people who want to work and the number of people who have jobs. So what's being done? On the next slide here. Getting clunky on us, huh? At least you have the ability. I don't have the ability right now. You can see how I'm actually doing this. You probably laugh. So I know in Bloomington that Bridgeway does operate. As a matter of fact, I think I heard somebody on the line. Bridgeway operates individual placement support that both McLean County and Chestnut do refer people to. This is an evidence-based practice. When I was hired by the state 13 years ago, I was actually enrolled in an IPS program through the Human Service Center in Peoria. As I mentioned, it is an evidence-based program, and I don't really have time to go into great depth, but it's not about, gee, are you symptom-free? Are you drinking? No, if you say you want to find a job, they'll try to help you find a job. And it's about empowering the person to make those decisions about the direction they want to go with their life, where they want to go with their employment. So I'm a firm believer and supporter with IPS, and there's a lot of values, and I wish I had more time to talk about it, but it's really about working towards recovery. And my old supervisor used to say, you know, if we could find everyone that comes to a mental health agency a good job, we'd probably have a lot less people coming to mental health agencies. And I believe that to be true because, you know, it's so much of our identity in what we do. So next slide. So you can also contact the Regional Recovery Support Specialist. My contact information was on the first slide and also there. There's only 6 of us in the state. Unfortunately, 3 of them are getting ready to retire. So we're going to be running a little thin for a while. Next slide, Dan. And if you're not sure what region, because I know we have some people down on here from down south, and also I heard somebody on here, I think from the Kewanee or Galesburg group, and that's still Region 3. But I know we also had people from Chestnut down south, and that would be Cindy Mayhew's area. Then 5 South is actually Rhonda Cap. So next slide. So mental health court and drug court. So of course, you know, or substance use court, or, you know, comes under a plethora of names. I think McLean County was one of the first to really establish a really well-operated behavioral court system. And I was fortunate enough that I was involved from kind of the startup of the mental health court system throughout the state. And there's actually more in 1990 to update this slide. So with substance use courts or drug court or what have you, normally it's all about compliance or consequences. With mental health court, and I'm sure some of you have been to some staffing, it's about what can we do to help this person so they become less involved in the criminal justice system. So I'm a firm believer, and I've seen great success. I know that an agency in Peoria who currently has approximately 17 recovery support specialists, I know that 4 of them actually came from the through the mental health court system, so that's huge. Next slide. We do a statewide call. It's the 4th Thursday of every month from 10 to 11. The curriculum is written by persons in recovery, delivered by persons in recovery. The question and answer are persons in recovery. There is no cost to attend. You do receive 1 CEU for your attendance. Next slide. Then we have the CRSS competency training. Hopefully many of you will attend this year. And as I mentioned, if it doesn't make a difference, and we did add CPRS to the name this year. So that'll tell you how much we also value the CPRS credential. And the first sessions, you can see the dates here. If you have not received that, feel free to drop me a note either in the chat box or communicate afterwards, and we'll get or contact me, and I'll make sure that you get registrations. The people who should attend are individuals who have their CRSS credential and increase their skills, individuals interested in pursuing the CRSS or CPRS credential, and supervisors of people who are currently working in the field. Next screen. So other trainings that we do a CRSS fundamentals, which is basically an introduction to the CRSS, learning the very basic skills of how do you self-disclose, what does your personal story, what might it look like, etc. Goes over the CRSS, and then we have one that's the CRSS requirements for certification. Another training, how do you go about getting your CEUs? And then we also do trainings for supervisors. Next slide. Told you there's going to be a lot coming at you. Some of the educational opportunities as we do the 10 statewide calls, that's 10 CEUs. The CRSS competency training equals 16.5. CRSS fundamental training are 5.5. And we also will be offering, if you're not familiar with it, contact me. Registrations will be out soon for the evidence-based practices trainings that will be done in August. And you can get up to 36 hours of CEUs. These all can move people very rapidly towards taking the exam for the CRSS or the CPRS. Next slide. CRSS or CPRS. So we have the Certified Recovery Support Specialists, which mainly people who are going to be working primarily in the mental health field should be working towards their CRSS. People who are going to work primarily in the substance use field should be working towards their CPRS. However, we have a lot of people who are kind of working towards both or working within. There's a lot of interchangeable parts. There's quite a few similarities, much more than differences. One small difference is with the CRSS, you sign basically an affidavit saying that you're willing to self-disclose your recovery when appropriate. With the CPRS, they do it as an expectation. So there's a lot of subtle things. The exams are not that much different from one another. And the difference being CRSS is an Illinois certification, which is owned by the Illinois Certification Board, where the CPRS is actually a national certification. It's all over the country. A lot of CPRS was actually designed around Illinois and a couple other states' CRSS because it kind of fit the task. And I believe I'm going to be I'll send Dan a handout that really spells out all the differences, and or Andy, one of the two of them, and they can distribute that to you to give you a better feel of what that expectation is. So there's really not much difference in the educational pieces. And if you attend the CRSS training, you can use it towards your CPRS. Next slide. Recovery services. Every organization believes in recovery. Not every organization has adopted a culture of recovery. If your organization is not, leadership buy-in is essential for the culture of recovery to really take hold in whatever organization you work with. Next slide. We're getting there, folks.
Yeah, Tom, I was going to say, Tom, we have just about 10 minutes left.
Yep. I'm going to wrap it up right. Okay, and I will go just about anywhere for recovery education. And Dan, if you can just real quickly to provide community recovery education to folks. Dan, if you can flip through these last slides just real fast. The following slides, which you will receive, just keep clicking, will be on WRAP, which is Wellness Recovery Action Planning. We've done a lot of them, just kind of keep, this is about the facilitators training. Next, what you can write a RAP for, RAP values and ethics. Each RAP is unique to each person. The foundational principles of wellness, which you'll find if you attend the CRSS training this year, you will find a module that uses this particular piece along with the 12 steps to show the similarities between mental health and substance use recovery. Next slide. You can write a rap for anything. These are some of the areas that they've been written for, and you will be receiving this. And I moved a little slower than I thought I would, or started a little later than I thought I would. I don't know which. So then, next slide. I think I've only got 2. Just flip, and then this is about the parts of RAP. You will be receiving it also. Next slide. It's a RAP, and the whole point of CRSS or CPRSS is developing commonality with the individual instead of a hierarchical relationship. So I'd like to thank you for your time. Sorry if I went a couple minutes over, or I don't know if we started on time or not, but that's my spiel. I'm sticking to it. Thanks, Angie and Dan.
Thanks, Tom. Very good.
Thank you, Tom. Excellent. A lot of information. I would say I want to lead off with a quick question. Does it cost anything for someone to go through the training process?
No, there is no charge. Anything that the Division of Mental Health does is free. There are organizations out there that may offer trainings. Make sure that they offer CEUs with them. That's not to say their training can't count towards your education. It's just a little bit more clunky. Also, the Human Service Center in Peoria does basically a 30-hour, 3-time-a-year training for people who want to go into the field as well, that CEUs are offered on.
Also, reminder that Heartland this fall is offering a CRSS training course that will give you a lot of hours towards that certification. And I had the ability to do the CCAR Recovery Coach Academy. That's another good one. I think that ended up giving me about 33 hours towards it. That's a 1-week, Monday through Friday training. That's really good. In the email minutes, I'll include Jesse Heffernan's name. He's the one who heads that up. There was a cost associated with that one, though. You know, and then with the exam, I'll just echo what you said. The training manual, the prep manual gives you some information, but the test was definitely more difficult than I was anticipating. Mostly because a lot of the questions have multiple correct answers, so it's one of those where you kind of have to pick the best right answer, and that can be tricky sometimes. So like I went through it, felt like I aced it, and then my score wasn't quite as good, but still enough to pass. But I was just going to ask if there was any other trainings or kind of, you know, boot camps types, you know, other than like Heartland and the trainings, that the competency trainings that you mentioned, if there's any other, you know, sort of trainings that where you can get a bunch of credits at once that you were aware of.
With enough people, we have actually done with a pilot, myself and Rhonda Keck from Region 5 did, which we call core training, where we gave 28 hours of CEUs. Excuse me, and there was no charge, and it covered all 6 hours of the required ethics training also.
And excellent. Angelica offered in the chat that she has her CRSS, so she's able to field any questions. And I think, Tommy, you did have a slide for the different regions, because I know on today's call, there's a couple of different regions represented at the table.
Mm-hmm.
So that breaks down who to reach out to if someone's interested in getting more information, correct?
Correct. Feel free to contact me. I'll go ahead and put my contact information in the chat box in case you couldn't get it off of the PowerPoint, which, as I mentioned, we will send out to you.
Yeah, we'll send out the meeting minutes, the information for the PowerPoint. And real quick, Michelle, I apologize. I did see you come on and I totally misintroducing you. So thank you for coming to the table. And it brings up a great point, Michelle. We were just talking about connecting basic needs. I know you're working on an initiative with TASK. And so Tom, that part of your presentation really resonated with me with our different initiatives that we're trying to launch in the ROSC in general, bringing in the library, bringing in, you know, reentry council, TASK, and things on those lines. So awesome stuff.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Tom. Oh, I did have one more question. What would you recommend to somebody who, with the supervision hours that are required, if you don't work in a treatment center, or, if maybe you're somebody who wants to be a CRSS on a volunteer basis, not in a paid capacity with an organization, how would you recommend somebody like that get those required supervision hours?
So interestingly enough, because volunteer hours or paid, either one, do count. So you could volunteer 2,000 hours and that would still count. The supervision is, it can be different things. Somebody's always answering to somebody, right? And there are no requirements as far as the credentialing of the supervisor. In other words, it can be another CRSS, it can be a house manager, it can be a homeless shelter manager. And so it's one thing, everybody has some type of supervision, which is more formal, one-on-one, or they have team supervision where they get together as a team. But even better than that is the informal supervision that is provided by, whether it's the house manager or what have you, where you're having discussions about, a situation comes up, how do you handle this to the supervisor? That information and that conversation between the supervisee and supervisor does count towards supervisory hours. So, I mean, I think pretty much everybody answers to somebody if you're doing volunteer work, and it's a question of that person being willing to sign off that they've offered that to you, that supervision. Hope that answers you, Dan.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you, Dan, because speaking to Dan's earlier point, Heartland is having a certification program to become a CPRS and starting this fall. And the ROSC will be offering some different, I would say, financial assistance and scholarship opportunities. And in lieu of becoming involved with the ROSC, if they've already been involved with the ROSC, things along those lines. So there's more to come on that horizon, but I did ask Dan, and there's a perfect time to ask Tom, for supervisory hours, if that supervisor needs to have a certain credential behind their name to supervise someone going through a CPRS or CRSS.
None, no requirements as far as education level or their position. They just need to be in a supervisory role of some sort. The key is 51% of the hours somebody's volunteering or working need to be in recovery support, whether that's the CPRS or the CRSF.
Great, thank you. And more to come on the horizon for this ROSC scholarship opportunity with the collaboration with Heartland. Thank you, Tom, for the information today. It's a very informative presentation. So thankfully you're sending us the slides so we can, take out some of the information, send out the meeting notes. And other than that, we'll hopefully see everyone next month. Some people sooner, on June 25th for the Reentry Council.
And we'll be sending out a flyer. We're going to do another open mic next Thursday. It'll most likely be next Thursday, June 24th. There's a chance it could be July 25th, the last Thursday of July, but we're leaning towards next Thursday, and we'll have a ISU student, Caitlin Bowman, who will be leading it as like a music sort of therapy group, not actual therapy, but we're just calling it that as a term of convenience. But it'll be like playing music, teaching basic chords and techniques, discussing the role of music in our lives in recovery, and also just kind of have that sort of theme. That'll be 1 hour from 6 to 7, and just look for that flyer later this week.
And I'm biased, but July 25th happens to be my birthday, so I think we should definitely make some music that night.
Oh, all right.
All right. Well, everyone have a great afternoon. Thank you for joining us. And again, look for that flyer, look for more information, and the newsletter's coming out this week or next week. So please stay cool in this warm temperatures that are coming upon.
Thanks, Angie.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom, very much.